And now we're going to go back to some writing on the staff. We were talking about, and this is the thing on the internet that everyone was interested in, my little secret to sharps and flats, which is, there's a whole lot of people out there on the internet that are actually trying to learn to read music by number. And a lot of people have numbered pieces of music and posted them to the internet, and people download these numbered pieces of music and they give them to their children, and their children can play the piano instantly. And then they're frantically trying to see where they can buy more. They want to go out and buy more, songs that are numbered. And there isn't anybody on the internet that's selling numbered songs. It's just not happening. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm showing you how to number a song using regular music. If we look at regular music, we see how the staff functions and how we can number it. Then we can number a piece of music, and once we have a piece of music numbered, we've essentially decoded it into a neutral key, and then we can play it in any key anywhere we want on any instrument. Okay, that's the theory here. Okay, so one of the main keys to this is the key signature, the sharps and the flats, and how to know what position you're in with the sharps and the flats. And then I'll show you how to use that to decode a whole piece of music today. Okay. So the first thing is when on the staff we put in the sharps. I was showing you last week that there's a pattern that evolves. 1, 2, 5. Okay. So, can you see this all right up there on the... Good enough? All right. The first thing that happens is, let's say I put a sharp right here on this top line. The first sharp becomes the number 7. So I can use that little wheel, wherever it is. Let's see if it's in here. That wheel, 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6. Gee, where are those notes, Angel? You said they were here. Can you find them for me?
They were here?
Those pieces of paper where I had the number code written out.
You're talking about this, or?
No, I'm talking about the sheet of paper where I had 1, 3, 5, 7. I had the wheel drawn, and I had it drawn 3 times. I had it drawn one. So you didn't. That's what I said when we were at home. I had a feeling that she thought it was here, and I didn't think it was. So anyway, the pattern is 1, 3, 5. I don't know if I'm doing this. 5, 7. Is that correct, or is my 7 backwards? Thank you. 1, 3, 5, 7. 2, 4, 6. Well, thank you, Angel, but then where's the pentatonic scale that I drew? Okay. There you go. You can see that, right? So what's happened is, this is, if the number 1 were a line, then that would be a line, a line, a line, a line, a line, and they'd all be lines. If the number 1 were on a space, then they'd all be on spaces, because they're every other number. So what we're doing is we're going line, space, line, space, line, space, line, space. So every other number would be, if this were a 1, that would be 2, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, etc., etc. And this helps us number the staff so we can then read by number. The sharp is the number 7. So if that there is the number 7, then the next line down, right, we'll be rotating it counterclockwise. So the next line below that is going to be a 5. I'm doing this backwards again, aren't I? And then this line down here is going to be a 3. And then that line right there is going to be where the number 1 is. The number 1 is landing on this second line here from the bottom. And then if we continue this line down here, then will be a 6. And if we drew a ledger line below, that would be a 4. And we put 2 ledger lines, that would be a 2. And we go to 2 ledger lines above. The reason for that is to give ourselves enough room to write 2 octaves of something. And there are most instruments, a saxophone is about 2 octaves and 3 notes wide. A trumpet plays 26 chromatic notes, that's about 2.5 octaves. A lot of instruments have 2 to 2.5 octaves in their range, and that's all I got. So if I use the staff with my 5 lines and 6 basses, that gives me 11 notes. And if I add 2 ledger lines above and below, that will extend it to give me more than enough room for 2 full octaves, or to have 24 notes. Room for 24 notes, basically. So let's see. So here, this is 7. Then going this way, this top line here would be a 2, and this top line there would be a 4. So there I've numbered that, with this line here being my reference point. Right? Now, if this were the treble clef, this would be called the key of G. However, if it were in the bass clef, the first sharp would not be put there. The first sharp would actually be put down here on this line, because the bass clef forces this line to have the letter name F. So the F sharp would then force this whole thing, and then what would happen is this bottom line here would be where 1 is at. 7, 5, 3, 1. So in the bass clef, these sharps will be put in a different position. But we don't care where they're put. If there's one of them, it's the 7th step of the scale. That's all we have to know. And it doesn't matter which line or which space it's put on. There's reasons that they'll be moved around wherever. When we have 2 sharps, the first sharp goes on here at the top, on that top line. And then what happens is the next sharp is put on this space down here. And you'll notice if we count down, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's down 4. The sharp goes down 4 notes. And by the way, it goes down 4 and it goes up 5. Did I do that backwards again? No. I have to keep remembering it should be backwards. Okay, so the first sharp is put in here. The next sharp would be put down 4 notes. 4 notes. So now what happens is this point here, this space, now becomes the number 7. And what happens is this thing has now moved around the wheel. Quite interesting. It's done this. The first sharp that's put in is the number 7. Then when I add another sharp, it makes this sharp go down to here, 3. So now this sharp is the number 3 in the new scale. And the sharp we just put in, farthest on the right, is the new number 7. If I add in another sharp, a third sharp, what will happen is 3 will move down to 6, 7 will move down to 3, and the new sharp that comes in will be the number 7 again. And this goes on ad infinitum. Now I could do this for 29 sharps. And theoretically, after 7 sharps, you get into what I call virtual reality, where we go away from what we can actually hear in the real world to mathematical theoretical perfection, which music theory is capable of. Music theory is capable of spelling things that don't exist in the real world, that are pure mathematical and purely virtual, okay? And that's why we have these things called enharmonics, or I referred to them last week as aliases. I have 2 aliases. I'm Mr. Natural, but I'm also Natch. And if you yell either of those, I'll turn around right away. But if you say, hey, fat guy, I probably won't respond. Because although that's an alias, it's not one I respond to, okay? So, right? So sometimes we have notes which would be 1 sharp, which is the same note as 2 flat. And 1 sharp and 2 flat are the same key on the keyboard. So they're sounding the same note, but they're spelled differently. We talk about them differently. I can talk about something as having 2 double sharp. Now when I'm talking about 2 double sharp, I'm talking about the number 3. And some people might call it 3. But if it looks like a 2 and it's got 2 sharps on it, it's called 2 double sharp. And this is where we're getting into enharmonic or aliases, names of another color. It's really the number 3, but we call it 2 double sharp. Same thing. Same thing. So we only have 7 notes, and we only have 5 sharps or 5 flats. So we can't get too complicated. But beyond that, I can produce theoretical music that is written correctly, spelled correctly, but doesn't make sense to people who do ABC, because we've gone beyond the 7 sharps.